Hi there, my name's Olivia Lee, and welcome to Living Local, a show where I, in partnership with Ground Zero Radio, seek out small businesses and organizations that breathe life into our local communities and propel our culture forward. Through storytelling and interviews, we spotlight the unique journeys, challenges, and triumphs of these establishments and hope to inspire others through the diverse voices and perspectives that shape our world. I'm here at the home of author Hsiao Ching Chou and her daughter Meilee, celebrating the release of their new cookbook, Feasts of Good Fortune. Come join me as I step into their kitchen to not only learn about the recipes, but the stories behind them and the importance they hold on family, community, tradition, and culture on this episode of Living Local. So congratulations on your new book, Feasts of Good Fortune. It's a really cool cookbook that combines family tradition with stories and really cool and delicious recipes. For those that haven't gotten the chance to dive into your book, could you tell us a bit about what the book is and what was the inspiration behind it?
Sure. This is my third cookbook actually, and I wanted this third one because it's about holidays throughout the year. I wanted to make sure that Meilee was involved in it, because when you are sharing traditions and stories and things like that, you actually need somebody there to tell them to,
right.
and somebody to take on some of those. Just to receive the information. So I wanted to make sure that Meilee was involved, but also just to get a representation of that generation into the narrative. Yeah.
I noticed there were a lot of different holidays that were represented in the book besides Lunar New Year, which I feel like is a really popular one. What was the intention behind including all of the maybe lesser known holidays?
There are all these other holidays, and there isn't really a contemporary book that describes all of them, all of these Chinese holidays, at least the main ones, and then how we celebrate it through the lens of a Chinese American family. Because if you're celebrating these holidays back in Taiwan or on the mainland, there's a whole culture around it, which we don't really have here in the States. And so I wanted to make sure that, there was some storytelling around that context. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what we're making today.
Well, we are making dumplings. I think that's everybody's favorite is dumplings. There's a dumpling for every cuisine in the world. And we just love eating them. So we have the traditional pork and Chinese cabbage dumplings. I make the dough from scratch.
Nice. Meilee, did you grow up cooking a lot with your mom in the kitchen?
I definitely, more around the holidays, like for Lunar New Year, we would grow up kind of doing an assembly line because I have like 5 other cousins and my grandma lives with us. So assembly line, slowly learning how to make dumplings. A lot of it was when we were younger, just playing with the dough.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun. And then as we got older, it was actually trying to make things and failing. And then now we're getting to a point where we're all starting to be able to actually make products that we're proud of.
Yeah. When you were writing the book with your mom, was cooking a way for you to really bond with her more and deepen that connection?
What's so interesting about doing a project like this is being able to learn my family's history a lot as well, and learning the recipes that like my family created when they immigrated to the US in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So it's been really interesting to like get this kind of perspective from the kitchen and also just my family's history.
Nice. All right, so we've cut up the dough. What's the next step?
Well, we're making these dough balls, and then we'll roll them out to make the actual wrappers. Nice. And so this part, if you were to roll out these pieces of dough, they wouldn't be round. Mm-hmm. So we have to set ourselves up for success, and the way to do that is, of course, do some work. So you roll them into a nice ball and then just gently press it in between your palms, and you get kind of this Nilla wafer situation. And we'll just do that. And that was kind of the first thing that I learned when I was learning from my mother. Was just this is the playing with dough part, is like you really can't mess this up. Mm-hmm. Rolling dough into this ball, and then from here. This is where it takes a lot of practice to learn is actually rolling rolling the wrappers themselves.
Wow.
And that takes, it takes some learning. There's different ways to do it, but then you get this wrapper here. So once we roll these out, what we do is grab a little bit of filling. So it's like a heaping tablespoon or a teaspoon of filling. And then you just fold it. Now you can do all sorts of pleating, or you can do just a simple seal. And everybody's is a little bit different. So, okay, you try.
All right.
Meilee's gonna try some here.
I've not made dumplings since I was like 8, so my skills are a little rusty, but
It's
I'll try my
okay.
best.
So, like, this is a braid. Like, that's a little braided pleat.
I was reading your book, and especially like the chapter about your father, your grandfather. I felt like I could relate a lot hearing his immigrant story. It was very similar to my grandparents as well. Like you said, being professionals in their home country, and then once coming here, not really being able to do too much, so working all sorts of odd jobs. So I really appreciated the sort of narrative that you told in the book, because it's so much more than a cookbook. Food is so much more than just things to eat. It can tell a story, and I'm glad you guys had that angle in the book. Was that sort of the intention with including stories about like your grandfather or Meilee's grandfather, and just holiday traditions with your cousins?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, every cookbook aims to do that. And especially when the food is connected to a cultural way. And I think it's important to tell those stories.
Great, cool.
Wok sizzled, steam dramatically rose, and the kitchen came to life. After my attempted dumpling folds, I stepped back and let the professionals handle the rest of the cooking. The menu consisted of pork and Chinese cabbage dumplings, Meilee's chicken, stir-fried fish balls and vegetables, and barbecue duck soup with pickled mustard greens. The air was rich with savory aromas, the ones that really test your patience. Finally, the food was done and we set the table. The hard part was over. Now, we eat.
What was the process of writing the book like? How did you guys balance the creativity with the structure that's required for something as detailed as a cookbook?
It definitely involved a lot of lists and spreadsheets to keep us organized and on time. There is a schedule. I mean, for us, it was a 2-year process. So from beginning to end, we had to make sure that all the different pieces of that puzzle lined up accordingly to what the deadlines were. And it was just really great to be able to bring Meilee along on that journey, just so that she can experience what it means to deliver such a big project.
In the book, I really enjoyed the emphasis on there not being a perfect way to celebrate or create some of the dishes. For example, the Mom Says sections, in each recipe, they offer alternative ways to prepare the dishes. And I really liked that because it added a flexibility and made the recipes a lot more approachable, especially for people that are new to cooking or new to cooking this type of cuisine. And it almost felt like I had like a relative in the kitchen with me who was passing down their advice. So it made it a lot more personal. How do you see this approach helping people make the recipes their own while also honoring the cultural roots?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we called it Mom Says, was just to be that voice. Could be the voice in your head, or the person on your shoulder telling you, hey, here's some secret tips, or maybe not so secret, but like, here's some tips that can help you learn your way around a recipe. So it was intended to be friendly. And the way that the recipes are written, they're also very streamlined, and I don't think you have to make a recipe difficult for the sake just to make it difficult. It shouldn't have to be. A lot of everyday cooking is very straightforward and just dependent on what you have in the refrigerator. So I wanted to make that okay for people to just adapt as they need to, given their surroundings, circumstances, what ingredients they have available.
And I wanted to talk more about your essays because they were really, really cool. One of them describes being the experiences of being a mixed race person, the joyful but also sometimes difficult parts of it. So I wanted to know if being a part of like creative and artistic communities have helped you express and explore your mixed race identity.
For sure. I think definitely as I've gotten more into like the media world, I've been able to meet all of these amazing creators who are doing everything I want to do and being successful at it while also like embracing their identities and their upbringing. And it reflects within their work, and that's something that I really strive to do. And it's really empowering to be able to see all these people and to have these conversations and make these connections. We all go through such similar things, and it's really just having that conversation, which I think is part of why why my mom wanted me to write all these essays and why I agreed to write these essays, was just like having that conversation starter, because once that opens up like so many new things. Mm-hmm. Some of the core lessons I want to share with people are like, you shouldn't settle for people to like give half the effort into understanding your identity. Mm-hmm. And it's also not your responsibility to educate everybody. So I think that's definitely something big that I want people to understand with all of my work.
The book was born out of a desire to like reconnect with family, especially since the pandemic had prevented us from seeing like our family members. How do you hope that readers can use the cookbook to not only strengthen their own communities, but also create new ones during times of disconnect?
I think cooking together naturally just brings people together, or even just sitting down to have a meal. So the other thing I say in the book is, we're talking about holidays, but the food can be cooked any time of year. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be bound by the specific chapters in holidays. The other piece of it is that you don't even have to make all the food. If you just use it as inspiration to build a meal, and you end up buying the food from the market or a restaurant, but it's that act of sitting down together to share a meal and having conversations that just kind of fuels that exchange. So I think it really is just to give a reason to have these conversations. It's a reason to come together around the table, and just talk about stuff. I mean, it's really not more complicated than that.
I also think it's really something that I didn't really consider before, that I'm learning as we talk to more people about the book, is that it also can connect you to like your family over. Like, we've talked to some people who are like, these recipes taste like what my grandmother or like my mother made when I was younger, and they're people overseas and people they don't get to see very often. So even if you're not with them in person, you're still like getting that connection, and you're still feeling their presence there through the food, which I think is really beautiful.
Food is a beautiful thing. It does more than feed our hunger. It carries history, tradition, and generations of stories. But as much as it connects us to the past, it also reminds us of the future we're constantly shaping. Feast of Good Fortune is a celebration of where we come from and a roadmap for how we will evolve. It taught me that there's no perfect way to prepare these dishes, because each meal is different to the hands that make it and the hearts who share it. It's not about following a strict recipe. It's about letting traditions evolve and discovering new ways to celebrate our past while building a better future. Embracing change is easier said than done, but with the right community and some good food, change can be nurtured and shared across a crowded table. And if you're lucky enough, you'll always have a seat at one. That's all for this episode of Living Local. Be sure to buy Feast of Good Fortune, available anywhere you get books. Special thanks to Hsiao Ching Chou and Meilee Chou Riddle for graciously opening their home to us and for being our guest this episode. Additional thanks to our production lead Kenneth Hashimoto, our mentor Mas Yamada, and Ground Zero Radio. Catch us next time on Living Local, where we bring the local lens on life to you.